Okay. Can you first start by telling us your name?
Steve Aaron.
Okay, and then the second question is your relationship to the place.
To the park?
Yes.
Well, the Zarrow-Baker Park or playground area was placed at the Kiwanis Park. And so my relationship, it was as a Kiwanian. I was the president of the Kiwanis Club of Western Catawba County the year this project was started. And so when the mayor of the city of Hickory called and asked for the Kiwanis help in doing this playground or this park, of course the Kiwanis clubs approved that project, and then I was chosen as chairman of the committee that raised the money and saw the completion of the park.
Are you still a member of the Kiwanis?
I am. I've been a member of the Kiwanis Club for 26 years here in Hickory.
How long have you been associated with the Zarrow-Baker playground?
Well, the playground, of course, the playground itself was started about 2.5 years ago, the project, and it took us about a year to raise the $240,000 that was raised for the park. And then we started the construction phase of the park pretty much right after that. And so the park has now been completed, I guess, about a year and a half ago.
We've been doing research, and there's say of a tree house that's being talked about being built.
That is correct. We had, we being the Kiwanis clubs, through our foundation, we had about $17,000 that was left over after the initial playground area was constructed. And the decision was made to add a tree house, to build a tree house that would be handicapped accessible for people in wheelchairs. And it would use access ramps to get you up into the tree house. And so we have gotten estimates. Of course, first we had to have drawings or plans and some construction estimates, and Hickory Construction Company has given us a great price. And so we do anticipate that sometime in the early spring we will go out there and build that tree house as an additional feature at the playground.
Okay. Are there anything about the history of the Zarrow-Baker playground that you consider significant for us to know?
Well, I think the most significant thing was the response of the community. You know, the mayor was concerned when the tragedy of this young lady and what happened to her. He wanted to make sure that that if we were going to memorialize her in some fashion, that it needed to be in good taste. We didn't need to have some site where people are dropping little toys off and things and stuff that had to be policed up and kept up. So his idea was, because it was Kiwanians that were doing it, that we would go to Kiwanis Park and build this. And he asked for our help. And when we started, I will be very honest and say that we felt like a $75,000 goal would be a lot of money to raise. And as we got involved in this thing, and the community and businesses and individuals got involved, then all of a sudden our target went from 75 to 125 to 200, and eventually we finished at 240,000, 15,000 of which was used and given to the Children's Protection Agency here in town to train adults to spot child abuse. So we bought, it was used for training materials. And that came from a grant from the Kiwanis International and one other source, which I had forgotten. So that money was not used specifically for playground construction, but it was used for training to try to address the issue of what happened to Zarrow. You know, and I've lost track now, so what was the question again?
It was the question about why do you consider this, what is significant about this place.
Okay. Oh, yeah. And
But
of course,
you
like I
basically-
said, the community's involvement.
Yeah.
And I will say that since its construction, of the 26 parks I believe that the city operates, this is the #1 destination park now. And it is not just a park for the city, it has become a regional park. You know, you can go out there and you will see buses from Burke County, Caldwell County, different places, that when the students come from school system here, maybe to go to the science center, they go out there to have their lunch at the picnic area, and the kids can play while they're there. So it is really used a lot, and of course that excites everybody.
Okay, so why is the Zara Baker Playground important to the city of Hickory now that it's been already built, and how does it stay important?
Well, I will say that it is probably by far the largest facility they have that is fully handicapped accessible. You know, most of their playgrounds had some features that handicapped children could use, but this entire area that was constructed has features that are for handicapped kids, autistic children. I mean, it's even the play material or material underneath it is a poured compound that if children fall, they don't get hurt. You know, it's a rubberized type thing. So that made it a very unique park in terms of the city's Park and Recreation Department. And I will say that, of course, this was a great partnership between Kiwanis, the community, and the city, because the city invested a lot of time and money in addition to what the $240 we actually spent to buy the equipment and get it installed, and they maintain it because it is part of their Park and Recreation Department or facilities. So you know, that makes it a very a good arrangement to make sure that that original investment is well taken care of for the future.
What experiences have you had at this place to make it significant to you?
Well, I tell you, you have to be inspired when we had the community build day. This was 2 days that volunteers signed up to come over and help actually build this playground. And we had 360 people who came over and spent a certain number of hours for 2 days to build this. And of course I was involved in some of the logistics of feeding these people and you know, and making them welcome, which the Kiwanis clubs did. But and then since then I've had numerous opportunities to just go and see the fun the kids are having out there. You know, this playground has some features that most playgrounds don't have, and the kids seem to really enjoy some of the interactive things that they get to climb on. The 50-foot slide is one of the most exciting things. They just run up and down that hill constantly, riding the slide, and they really enjoy it.
I'm gonna let you clear up over there.
Thank you.
Has the city itself, has it changed since the park has been built? Focusing more on the aspect of how they look at the little girl's death. Like, the views of them have changed.
Well, I'm not sure that it would be proper for us to say that it is a city responsibility. You know, the city, through its elected officials, were concerned because even though this Zara Baker only lived in this city 2 weeks before this event happened, she came from Caldwell County, is where she moved from, and but they were tuned to the tragedy enough to know that as a city, as a community, we needed to do something, both as a healing process and as an awareness process. And I think that, you know, our our park used to be called Kiwanis Park. All the playgrounds and the other play areas and the tennis courts. It is not called Kiwanis Park. It's not known as Kiwanis Park anymore. It's known as Zara-Baker Park. You know, and that wasn't by intent. Yes, we have signs up on the road that say Zara-Baker All Children's Playground, you know, that direct people to that. But that's now what the community understands it to be. And so simply by people becoming aware of that, it makes them all aware of who Zara-Baker was and what happened. And so then the spin-off things, you know, the Children's Protection and Advocacy Center, and their training, their goal to train 6,000 adults in a 2-year period of time with the training materials they had. So it is an effort to increase community awareness, to make people more aware of what the symptoms are when somebody's being abused. And so, you know, the indirect things, you know, children for a long time will have fun out there on that playground. But it also is a constant reminder of, you know, you have to be alert and aware of what's happening in society, and particularly when it comes to young children.
These people who were trained to recognize the abuse, what do they do now? Do they go to the park or? Well,
it's of course these people were trained. They are educators, people in that work with youth and daycare centers. I mean, it's not people who work at the park. It is people who are in the community who interact with children every day. You know, but by going through this training, it increases their awareness of the signs and symptoms of when abuse may be taking place.
How often do you visit the park?
Well, I probably there once a month. You know, we in the capacity here of my work with the Salvation Army, we have participated with the city in a number of events. We just had back in September the National Day of Play that the Army and the city partnered with, and so I was there for that weekend event. And I was just recently out there showing somebody the park, you know, that had never been there. So I get out there frequently.
Do you consider this park sacred?
Well, I think certainly more so than it was before. You know, before it was just a playground area. Now, when you couch the playground area and the addition of the Zara-Baker portion, I think it is changed community's awareness, and I know for one thing, I know that the city is committed because of the use of the park by the public, that they're committed to keeping that facility clean, neat, and in good condition all the time. And there are plans, I will say, outside of the treehouse, they plan to build some additional bathrooms and another picnic shelter and some other areas there, right there at that part of the park.
Is there any other information you'd like to share that we haven't asked you about? Just any additional?
Well, I guess maybe just to share with you why the mayor called me as the president of the Kiwanis Club. Kiwanis is almost a 100-year-old organization. It was started in 1915, and our motto is serving children of the world. That's all we do. Every dollar we raise, every event we do, is to service kids. And so whether it's whether it's through terrific kids recognition in school, or key clubs in high schools, or building playgrounds, or a shot clinic, or whatever, So, I could say on behalf of the Kiwanis clubs of Catawba County that this was by far, in my 26 years with Kiwanis, it was the greatest event we participated in. And we look back with a lot of pride. It wasn't something we could do all by ourselves. We did raise a lot of money, Kiwanis did, but the community had to help too. And I will share, just a little story, kind of give you an idea. I got a call from an executive of one of the businesses here in town just before the end of the year we were raising the money. And he said, Steve, he said, I should have called earlier. He said, what kind of goal are you trying to reach? And I said, we were trying to reach at that time $200,000. And he said, where are you? And I said, 175,000. He said, come by my office and pick up a check for $25,000. So, this is an example of just one individual, that could make a difference, and, made a significant difference. He writes a check for that amount of money, and it just shows you how the community comes together to support, something like this.
What do you see for the future of this place?
Of the playground?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that, like I said, we've got plans for the tree house, additional bathrooms, additional picnic shelter areas, because this is the place everybody wants to come with their kids, or if they want to reserve an outing, they want to come to Zara Baker, and it can only handle so many kids at a time, or in terms of reservation for the picnic shelter and so forth. So the city is very much aware of that, and so I think we will see that area continue to grow and prosper. And honestly, like I said, I don't think we'll ever lose sight of the fact that it isn't just a playground. It is a memorial to her, to Zara Baker, and we got calls and donations from Australia, England, Canada. I mean, it became an international kind of event, and it is something that this community can be proud of, because they all pulled together and made it happen.
Can you tell us anything about the ribbon cutting, the dedication ceremony? Were you there?
Well, yes, of course I was there. We did have an event where we had some of the major contributors. We also had a lot of kids there as a part of that event, because it is for the children. And we had food and so forth. And so with the mayor making some comments, and then I made some comments on behalf of the Kiwanis Club, and our involvement and excitement, we were able to cut a ribbon on opening up a really significant piece of the Hickory's Parks and Recreation area now, and it was well attended. I will say the ribbon cutting we probably had a couple hundred people that day, that morning, and it was a nice event.
What was the hardest part of the whole project?
Well, I don't know that there was a hard part. The key part to making the whole thing happen was getting the right people on the committee. An attorney named Charlie Dixon. He happened to be a Kiwanian also, but we had a committee that met every 2 weeks for almost a year, steering this whole process. And that committee is what really made this thing happen. They wrote the grant request, they helped organize events, the communication piece that had to take place to keep the media informed. And I will say that was another thing too, is the media was very attuned to what we were doing. And anytime we had a news event, the TV stations and everybody covered it. And they gave a good coverage, exposure to the area.
So this is just kind of a personal question. Do you feel that when people bring their children to the park, do you feel like they think about the story behind the park, or do you think they just come to have fun?
Well, I think it is just normal that after time expires, the awareness feature, the younger kids come along and they wasn't even born, or they were very young when this thing happened. But I will say this, that there is a lot of people in this community, in this region, that very much know who Zara Baker was. You know, it is a name that a lot of people recognize, and they know what happened to her, and they also are very much aware that this park is here. So I think, you know, is it something that you really want to keep? I mean, we want to remind people what can happen, you know, if we're not aware, and if we don't have people trained to spot, you know, abuse or things that are not being done, handled like they should be. But I don't think that's where our focus should be. The focus should be on the healing part. You know, yes, we need to be aware of it, but this thing was like something that the community embraced to kind of heal the community and make us aware of it, but also celebrate her life. You know, it wasn't a tombstone. It was something that she was handicapped. And that was one of the main reasons that we said it had to be a handicap facility. And so it is, like I said, it's a celebration center now to celebrate her life, as short as it was, and to recognize that there are children that had the same physical handicaps that she had that could go out and have a good time.
How many children have you seen that have come that do have handicaps in the playground?
Well, you know, of course, most of the kids, when you go out there, but they don't look like handicapped at all. They're all over the place. But I will say that in the early days of this thing, when we were having the original dedications, I mean, I saw a lot of people in wheelchairs because a lot of those rides and so forth, that you can ride them up in the wheelchair and they get to swing or whatever. So it is definitely used by handicapped kids.
Do you know of any other parks surrounding areas that have handicap accessible playgrounds like this one?
Yes, I do. In fact, one of the first ones is down in Conover, a school called the Conover School. It's a part of the Newton Conover City Schools, but that school, their student body is all handicapped. I mean, it is kids who have special needs, and so they built a playground that had a lot of handicap features that we were able to go look at. Some of their people on their school committee and so forth down there worked with us a little bit in some of the planning. So that is, like I said, it's right down in Newton. And it's a nice facility for people on the eastern side of the county.
I had no idea.
What drew your attention to wanting to become how did you come about to become the chairman of the head of the project?
Well, I guess somewhat by default, when the mayor called me first, then of course when I brought it, when I assembled representatives of the Kiwanis clubs here in the county to discuss the issue about whether we would take on this project, once the decision was to go forward, then when it came time to elect a chairman, I got drafted. But I had a passion for it, and I was honored to do it. My career is as a banking executive. I've worked on a lot of committees over my working career, and so it was something I was comfortable with doing, as serving as chairperson of this committee, and honored to do on behalf of Kiwanis and the community. So, I look back and say that it was, of all the things I've done in my lifetime, it was probably one of the most rewarding that I did.
What do you do now here at the Salvation Army?
I'm the Resource Development Director for the 7-county Hickory Corps. And, after I retired from banking, I wasn't ready to go home and do nothing. So, and I had served on the Salvation Army Board for a number of years. And so I decided to take this responsibility. And so now I raise money and coordinate the volunteers for the Salvation Army in this region.
Are there any interesting stories or facts that you know about the park that you would like to share with us?
Well, I'm probably not the person that would know all the details now. Once we built it, we turned the park over to the Hickory Parks and Recreation, and so, the day-to-day interaction there is now kind of their responsibility, and Matt McLeod in his department. But like I said, the most interesting thing for me was just how generous and the community became, and even the Hickory Daily Record, the newspaper here, when they published this little, I guess it was a little narrative history of the Zara Baker story and so forth, and all the things, the drama that went on, not only with her death, but with the trials and all the stuff with the things. But the proceeds from that, they donated to the park, and so they give us $10,000 toward the thing. So it was just an example of what a lot of different people did to raise that $240,000, and a lot of it was collected $1 or $2 at a time in front of Walmart, or small donations or whatever. It was truly a community effort. So, I don't think I have anything other than that to, I guess, a remembrance.
I feel it. It hurts.